Recently, I finished Call of Duty World War II's campaign, and despite the fact that the game is now 3 years old and has no doubt lost its relevancy in the gaming world, I wanted to make a video on it because why not? Maybe I'll be able to tap into the 12-year-old tryhard demographic. But I digress. Whenever it came to playing a CoD game for me, I was always more interested in the campaign than I was in the multiplayer. Keep in mind that I was a Nintendo kid growing up, and my mom wouldn't let me play first-person shooters, so by the time I got to experience the CoD games of old, the player base had heavily dropped off. Even with my late introduction to the series making online multiplayer practically a non-factor, I was more interested in the campaign anyway, running through a diverse set of levels, mowing down enemies, having a story unfold as you do it. It's just more fun to me. So, with that established, I'm positively sure, absolutely, you are wondering what I thought of World War II's campaign, and the consensus is, it's just okay. Yeah, don't get me wrong, it could have been worse, but it also could have been a lot better, and it's due to a few issues in particular, these giant stains on this campaign shirt that never went away. Before I get to that though, I feel it necessary to go over what I liked about the campaign. I always do, always want to look at the positives of stuff, and the first thing I have to give it credit for is the fun I had playing in. When it comes right down to it, fun factor should be the most important thing about a video game, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If your game isn't fun, it doesn't matter how good it looks or how well it controls or anything like that. How fun a game is should take priority.
If it's not fun, why bother?
And I will say, despite the problems that I have with the campaign, which I will get to in a moment, I had a really fun time playing it. There's plenty of diversity in the levels. You get to drive a tank in one mission, fly a plane in another. There's one where you have to collect intel from a spy. These missions did a great job at keeping the gameplay fresh, but they never overstayed their welcome, keeping the focus on the core run and gun gameplay, which is still as satisfying as it's always been. Guns feel great, and even though these levels never change from the standard shoot until everyone is dead, the constantly changing locales, along with the amount of guns the game allows you to try out, keeps it fresh. I can confidently say that while playing, I was never bored. Okay, now it's time to get into the things I didn't like. Firstly, the characters just aren't that good, and that affects the experience a lot more than you'd think. Fun factor may always be the most important thing when it comes to making a video game, sure, but when it comes to the story side of things, quality of characters takes a strong second place. Any writer will tell you that if the characters are good, you can put them in anything. If you wanted to take the characters from the MCU and put them in the Wild West, you could do that. And they have. If you wanted to take characters from Adventure Time and put them in Minecraft, you could do that. And they have. That's because these are good, well-written characters that are able to form an attachment with the audiences watching them, meaning they'll watch them no matter what the setting is. When it comes to World War II, you really can't do that. Straight up, these are the most simple, cookie-cutter, play-it-safe, by-the-books characters I've ever seen in a video game, or war story for that matter. You have the clean-cut main character who's got a wife at home and a baby on the way, the sarcastic side character in Zussman who always has a joke, Styles, the know-it-all, who also has jokes, just like Zussman, Aiello, who shows up so infrequently that I couldn't even tell you a trait, quite honestly. Then you have the higher-ups in Sergeant Pearson and Lieutenant Turner, with Pearson being the hard case and Turner more down-to-earth. Now you may be thinking that with all the traits I just named, that these characters might actually be pretty good, but those traits I named are the only traits they have. You know what? I take it back. Just like how well-written characters can work anywhere, the same goes for these characters now that I think about it, because they're so bland you could just slot them into anything and it wouldn't change at all. As much fun as I did have, the lack of an attachment I had to the characters detracted from my enjoyment overall. No matter what situation the characters found themselves in, I just couldn't bring myself to care. Even when, spoiler alert, Turner dies, which is supposed to be treated as this crushing blow that tears a massive hole in the group, I didn't feel anything. I pretended to be sad just so I could feel something. At no point in the story was I given a chance to like Turner as a character, because he never diverged from confident leader who wants to fight the good fight, and as such, not once did I see him as anything more than the character that would refill my ammo. The only reason Turner's death is impactful, which is for the wrong reason mind you, is because he is the only important character to die. In a war with 20 million soldiers dying, your ragtag group of friends make it to the end. I wouldn't have felt anything anyways if they did die, but this actually sheds light on another problem with the campaign, which is that there are no stakes at all. In a war where millions of soldiers lost their lives, never being able to return to their families, not once did I think, okay, things are getting kind of serious now. The tone stays completely neutral the entire time, often feeling more lighthearted of all things, with the characters cracking wise, and when it's actually time for things to take a more pressing turn, it never goes into that completely depressing territory that should automatically come with the setting of war, and it just never does, because the characters are written to where they never let it. D-Day was one of the bloodiest, deadliest missions in the entire war. For some soldiers, it was a suicide mission, but you don't get that feeling here. I understand it makes sense for the characters to talk to each other, to appear more optimistic, but I'd argue it'd be more impactful if they stayed quiet, assuring each other with their body language, but instead, Daniels is writing in his journal in the boat and lighting up the driver's cigarette. If I had no idea how serious and dangerous the Normandy invasion was, this certainly would not have done it any justice. It doesn't help that it's the first level, making it stupidly easy. How do you make the Normandy invasion a walk in the park? That's a problem all in itself. Now, it's weird to make this comparison, but of all games, Conker's Bad Fur Day did D-Day justice more than CoD World War II ever could. Every soldier is quiet, keeping to themselves as Conker tries to figure out what's happening. One squirrel pukes in the boat, and only when they reach the drop-off point does Conker realize what he's gotten himself into. When rewatching the scene for this video, I got chills up and down my body, but when rewatching D-Day in World War II, nothing. The tone, the lack of stakes, the cookie-cutter characters all amount to nothing because of how poorly these aspects of the campaign are handled. You just never feel anything when playing, to the point of being uncomfortably numb. The whole time I was playing, I wanted nothing more than to care about these characters, but the game just doesn't let you, because these characters never grow, never change from how they are in the beginning, so in turn, the tone never changes, staying at this weirdly easygoing feel where the characters only seem mildly inconvenienced about what's happening to them, which means the stakes feel like they're barely there. Everything outside of gameplay in this campaign is soul-crushingly dull. Let me end this video with a few more comparisons. For people who played Modern Warfare 2, how did you feel when Shepard killed Ghost and Roach? How did you feel when Reznov helped you escape that prison, parting with what would turn out to be his final words exchanged with Mason?
For you, Mason! Not for me!
Now how did you feel when anything at all happened in CoD World War II? If you're like me, you probably felt nothing.